Hello everybody. We looked at how to implement this using list views. What if we want to implement it using recycler views? So I will start from the implementation that we had with for list views and go from there. But basically for recycler views, we don't have a default adapter. So basically I'll just have to implement an adapter to do this. And similarly, I have to implement an adapter to do this one also. So let's see. I can use simple list item one, but in recycler views, the problem is that they don't have this default separator line that appears. But anyway, let's have a look and see what we could do here. All right. So let's go to the students fragment. Now I'd like to, all this listener stuff and all the interface will stay the same. I'm not going to change that, but then I need to build an adapter here. So basically I will go here, I'll click class. Let me change the layouts to have a recycler view just to start with. So I'll go here. We go to the students, the fragment students here. Before I do that, let me write the adapter and then we'll come back to this. So now we'll assume that there is in the list, in the layout, there is no list view, but there is a recycler view. So we need a class. We call it, for example, the students adapter, adapter extends recycler view dot adapter. You see there is and it needs a view holder type, so we'll open this and close, and then inside here we create a class which is going to be a student holder, right? View holder extends recycler view dot view holder. All right, here we are. Over create here, and so we're good to go with the view holder. Then we can copy our view holder, paste it here because the adapter needs a view holder. Options, enter, import, and now there are 3 methods we need to implement, and here we go. Good. So now that's the adapter, right? Now what's the item count? The number of items, it's going to be the students dot get size or size, right? So this is the item count. And now here we need to visualize some things. So what I could do is I could use the simple list item one here also. So basically on create view holder, you need to implement the it returns a view holder. So basically we need to do something like this. We'll do inflate first. So basically a view equals get inflator, right? Here it is, dot inflate r dot layout dot, it needs to inflate an r dot layout dot, and I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use the Android one, Android, like I used here. You see here I'm using android.r.layout.simple list item 1, android.r.layout.simple list item 1, and then basically you tell it the parent and then false. So basically this inflates that layout, and then basically you create a view holder and you return it. So here is the view holder. I'm going to return it. So new view holder and pass it the view, and we're good to go. Good. So basically that creates a view holder here. So that calls this method, right? Now here is on bind. This means that here you have a student. Here's the student equals get item. So basically the items are what students dot get at position, and we get the student. Now we need to take that student and pass it on to the holder so that we could display the student information. So public void setup UI. I'm going to send it a student. Here's the student. Now what is going to happen is that when you click, we want to pass on the student to the next screen. So basically this means that I have to store the student inside the holder, mstudent. So basically I'm going to do that to say this dot mstudent equals the student that arrives here. And then basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I need to be able to display this string. So basically I'll do that here. There is a text view, and basically that text view I need to get it from the layout. Text view equals item view dot find view by ID, android.r.id.text1. Right, so that's for the simple list item 1. Here is the text view, and I could call it, for example, text view student name. Right, just the name of my variable, so that it makes sense to me. Here's text view student name, and then basically here I could do text view student name dot set text to student.getName. So basically I'm going to display the name of the student. Setup UI, where do I call setup UI? It's here, holder.setup UI, and send it the student. Now the onClick listener for the row, we need to do it here, item view.set onClick listener, new onClick listener. And then basically here we just say mListener.send student, and not student, just one student, which is my M student. That's why I had to store it, right? So I'm storing the student inside the holder so that when you click, I have access to that student to pass it on. So that's the view holder, right? Now if you scroll down a little bit, that's the adapter, okay? And if we go in now, let's go change the layout. So where is the fragment students? I'll go in and delete this one and add a recycler view. Here's the recycler view added, and I'll call it recycler view. All right, here we are. Close this. And then basically now let's create the adapter. So we don't need this adapter anymore because we are creating another adapter now. We're not using list views. Here's student adapter, call it adapter. Here it is. And now I'm going to start here. I'll say adapter equal new student adapter. Okay, so I have the adapter now, right? And now the recycler view stuff. So binding.recyclerView.set layout manager, new linear layout manager, and it needs the context, and we're good. So this is the linear layout manager. Tell it to scroll up and down, and then binding.recyclerView.set adapter to adapter. Okay, and then we don't need all of this stuff. Okay, so that's doing it using the recycler view. So now would it work? Let's see. We run it and see what it's going to look like. Okay. All right, so basically what we did is we replaced the code that we had for list views with the code to use recycler views. And recycler views, you need to have your own adapter. And here it is. You could see that here it is, and there is no separator. But anyhow, when you click, does it go? Yes, it goes to the next screen. So because when you click, we handle the click inside the handler, inside the view holder here. Where is the adapter? Here it is. You see inside the view holder, we handle the click on the row, and then we call our use the mListener to call this method and pass on the student to the activity, which in turn passes on the student to the next screen, right? Okay, so we have the recycler view with this one. Now the next screen, we can also do the same thing. Student history fragment, we can do the same thing, but in that case, I'm going to what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the code from here, or maybe keep it, right? And then so that's the code that we had. We can make use of the code that we had in the get view in the view holder when we implemented the adapter here. So anyway, so let's do a class. I'll call it course. Let's call it this course history adapter. Let's say this is, let me rename this one because, okay, this is the old one. So I'll right click, refactor rename. Where is refactor rename? And I'll call it just maybe old. Okay. OLD. All right, so that's just to name it here because the new one I want to call it the same thing. Class course history adapter. Okay, extends recycler view dot adapter. There it is, and it needs a view holder type. Okay, it needs a view holder type. We go in, we create our view holder. So a class course history view holder extends recycler view dot view holder. All right, here we are, and we have the view holder. Needs a constructor. Here we are, and create constructor. We're good to go. Okay, good. So now we have the view holder here. Good. Now what we need to do is take the view holder class. Okay, and I did a mistake. No, take the view holder class. View holder. It's this. We'll take the view holder class and put it in here as the parameter, as the generic. Now you see it needs the 3 implementation methods, and here we are. Oh, good. So now when you asked for the number of items is mStudent, or we have it already, which is the course histories dot size. So that's the what we're visualizing here. All right, good. That's the size of it, and now we go and build our view holder code here and here. All right, so basically I'm going to use binding like I used here. So basically here I used binding. You see that I used binding already here, right? So this is the layout. So I'm going to copy this stuff from here. So now when you are creating a view holder, I'm going to create a binding. Let me call it item binding. So basically I'll call it, this type is this. Here it is. All right, so here it is. So I'm going to inflate something, the item binding, I'm going to inflate it. And then I'm going to pass it on to the view holder. So now to pass it on to the view holder, instead of it receiving an item view, I'm going to pass it on binding. I'll call it, for example, view holder binding. Okay, that's what I'm going to pass on. And then now here this is not happy because this needs a view. So basically we get root, that's the case. And then I can store the binding inside here, right? So basically I can store that because that's what I'm going to use to do to when on bind, I'm going to use that. So to show the information and so on. So here is the binding. You know, inside the get view, we were storing the binding in a tag, but here we are storing it inside the view holder so that we could use it. So here it is, mbinding equals view holder binding, that whatever was sent here. So I have the binding here, we're good. We have the binding here. Now what we'll do, we'll say new course history view holder, and then we pass it the item binding that we just inflated. And here we go. So basically the view holder is done. You know, we just used binding for that. I didn't have to inflate separately. I'm just using the binding to inflate. Now in here you have a course. So basically you have a course history, and course history equals course histories dot get at position. So that's the course history. Now I want to pass it on to the view holder, right? So basically here void setup UI, our famous method, setup UI, and I'm going to send it the course history that I received. So course history, so course history, and I call it course history. So that's what I'm going to send. So basically I'm going to send it here. You have the holder dot setup UI, the course history. All right, so you're sending it the course history here, and now the code that you have here is exactly the same as the code that you have here. So basically I'm going to copy this from here to here, and I'm going to put the code here, but instead of item binding, it's called mbinding. All right, it just uses the course history to display the stuff, and we're good to go. So basically that's the adapter here. You see here I just used exactly the same code that we had with regard to the get view, because they are technically doing the same thing. So we don't need this one. I'm going to delete it. And so I have the adapter, so I'm going to copy this from here and put it here. So I have the adapter, and I'm going to remove all the code related to the list view, right? So here it is. Okay, now we go back to the layout for the history, and I'm going to delete the list view stuff. Here it is, and then add the recycler view. Here's the recycler view, add it and drop it, and then basically add some constraints, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then basically make sure that the heights are 0 and the width are 0, you know, so that it can move up and down. And here we are, a little bit of a margin here, a little bit of a margin here, and we're good. A little bit of a lower margin, also remove that. So now here's the recycler view, give it an ID, recycler view. Okay, we go back here to the code, and now we set up some things. We create the adapter. Here's the adapter, equal new course adapter. So here's that. Then we do binding dot recycler view dot set layout manager new new linear layout manager get context. So here's the activity, and then binding dot recycler view dot set adapter to adapter. Okay, cool. So that makes it, that's done. Now we run it and see if this works, right? So basically we are demonstrating here how to use the recycler view. So basically we click here, and here it is. So basically you can make this look a little bit better by putting this layout in a cart view, and it will look a little bit better, you know, so then there will be some kind of separator between the rows. But anyhow, you could see that things are working. Now, if I want to do a cart view, so let's go to the history row item. I'm talking about cart view here in this one, right? So what I'm going to do is, let me do this. So I'm going to go in, add a cart view to the layout here, right? And then open up the code, and I want this cart view to be the top of the whole. I want it to be at the top. We'll do this. I'll copy the namespace from here, paste it here, and then I want to put everything else inside the cart view. All right, here it is. So here's the cart view. I'm going to copy everything here that is in the constraint layout and put it here. So now I have a card view that is surrounding, there's a card view, and then inside it there is this stuff, right? So in the card view, make sure that it wraps content, the height. Now what I could do to the card view is, let's see, so in the card view, I could say, for example, I have a margin, let's say an overall margin of 10 dp. Because I want to push the actual card view in so that you could see this shadow, right? You see, now you could see the shadow. You know, when I didn't have this, you see the card view is just hugging the walls here, and you cannot see the exterior shadow. But if you do this, you could see the shadow a little bit better, right? Okay, cool. So now, do I need to do any other changes? No, when you run it, you will see now there will be a card view. I didn't change anything in the layout. I just took the previous layout, put it inside a card view. When I click here, you see there is a card view, and you could see that they are separated now. All right, cool. So you could see that this works. And we can do the same thing here, but here we don't have a custom layout, so we have to do a little bit of acrobats to get this done. But it is possible, but it needs a little bit of work. We need to create a layout. We can do it also programmatically, but anyhow, this is another video. All right, so we demonstrated how to use recycler views instead of list views in this assignment. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.